Hello guys, in this video we will create this simple application named Patient Tracker. So here in this application by pressing on this plus button we can add patient's details. So here we can see this keyboard has come up automatically. Now let's type some name like this, and when we press on this age text box this number keyboard will come up. Now let's say it's 30, and let's select this male, and here we can say doctor something like this, and here we can type keep drinking water like this. So when we press on this save button, now we can see this toast will show up successfully saved, and this new patient item will come up in this list. So one more thing we can do, that if we click on this delete icon, then this delete dialog will come up, and when we press on this yes button, this particular patient details will delete. And one more thing, when we press on this plus icon, then if we try to save this empty patient details, then this will not save. Here we can see it is showing a toast like please enter name. Now let's name it something like Muhammad. Now if I try to save, now it is saying please enter age. So if I now if I try again, it will say please select gender, because if I left any of this field blank, so it will show a toast. Now let's say female, and if I save, then this successfully saved toast will come up, and this that item will update in this list. So in this way this app will work. So this will be a very simple app. So now let's go to the Android Studio and create a new project. So this is the empty project I have created. So first let's see the changes I have did. So first let's go to this build.gradle project level. So here we are using the Compose UI version to 1.0.2 and the Kotlin version 1.8.0, and also this Dagger Hilt dependency. We will discuss later what are these dependencies for. So first you just copy these dependency from the GitHub repo. Let's go to this build.gradle module level, and here these two more plugins I have pasted, and here we are using the minimum SDK 21 and also this compiler version. Here we are using 1.4.0. This is very important because this compiler version and Kotlin version are very tightly coupled. So you just check that which version is compatible to which Kotlin version. And here in this, after this, these are the few more dependencies I have pasted. So we will discuss what are these dependencies for later. You just copy these dependencies from the GitHub, and after that here I have deleted all the that code which came with the new project. And also when we go to this UI package, and here colors, here I have pasted two colors which we will use in our project, and other colors I have deleted. So you can also take these colors. And in that theme pack file, here we are using this royal blue primary color, and this that teal 200 color to the secondary color. So like this you can also map these colors. Now let's first see what are the libraries we will use in our project. I have created this helper chart. I will give the link of this chart in the description, and also you can take this chart in that GitHub repository readme file. And the libraries which we will use, for user interface, we will use this Jetpack Compose library. And for navigation, we will use that navigation library which comes with the Compose. And also for that local database, we will use Room library. And for that dependency injection, we will use this Dagger Hilt library. So these are the libraries we will use. We will discuss one by one all these libraries when we will use. First we will design all those screens which are in our application. So let's see this first screen. First we will create this screen. So this screen is when our patient list will be empty. So this screen will come up. Here we can see in this screen what are the components. First we can see there is a top app bar and there is a floating action button, and in the middle of this there is a text composable. And for placing this top app bar and floating action button, we will use this scaffold. So this scaffold will help us to place these top app bar and floating action button at a right place. So let's go to our Android Studio, and here we will rename this UI package to presentation by pressing Shift F6. Here let's rename it to presentation refactor. Here in this presentation package, let's create one more package named patient list. And in that patient list, let's create one more file named patient list screen. And here we will create a composable function named patient list screen. So here I have taken this scaffold composable which comes with the Jetpack Compose. So let's minimize this import, and here in this scaffold there are various parameters. So one of this is top app bar. So here we will create a top app bar and pass in this parameter. And in the same way there is a floating action button. We will also pass that floating action button here. And in this scaffold, this is the content which will be in the scaffold. And for this content I have taken this box layout, and in that box layout here we are using the fill max size modifier. So what it will do, it will take the whole size of the phone screen. And with the scaffold there is a compulsory padding values we have to provide. So here I have provided that padding value in this box composable. And also let's provide one more parameter, content alignment. So whatever will be the content in this box, that will be center aligned. And here we will take the content of text composable. So here I have used this text composable, and in that text composable this is the text we will use. So here I have uses this slash n. This is for the new line. After details there will be a new line. And style, I have provided this S6 style. Let's press Ctrl B. We can see with the Jetpack Compose these are the different text styles which comes. So here we can use whatever will be the best for our text. So here I have uses this H6 text composable. So like this we can use these stylings, and here I have used this text align to center. Now we can pass this patient list screen to our main activity here, because this is the entry point. like this. Now we can run our app and see how our screen is showing. Here we can see our screen is showing perfectly. Now we will create a top app bar and here we will provide that. So here let's create one more composable function, and here we can see with the Jetpack compose this top app bar composable function comes. So here we can modify this top app bar composable function. So in this top app bar composable function, I have provided the title only because we only need title. So here I have used this text composable, and in that text composable, the text will be this patient tracker, and this styling we will use H5. And what I have did this copy because H5, when we press on this H5, here we can see this H5 font weight is normal, but I need the font weight to bold. So what I have did, I have taken a copy of this H5 and changed the font weight value to bold. So now let's use this top app bar in our parameter. Now let's run our app again and see this. Here we can see our top app bar is showing perfectly. Now we will create a floating action button. So for that, let's minimize this, and here after this, let's create one more composable function, and again like the top app bar, a floating action button composable function also comes with the Jetpack compose. So here we will use that floating action button, and now let's take a icon in that floating action button. So like this we will create a floating action button. So here for this clickable functionality we will use through the parameter of this listFab composable function, and in that floating action button I will use an icon. With the Jetpack compose, icons also come. So how we can access the icons? First we will take this icons class, and here first let's delete this, and when we press dot, so here we can see there is a default field and there are two more like outline, rounded, sharp, two tone. So which type of icon we need? So for this floating action button I needed that field icon, and here when we press this dot, so we can see there these are the icons which also come with the compose library. So here we will use that add button, add icon, like this, and this content description is for this icon, that what this icon is for. So this content description helps those peoples which are visually impaired. So let's use this list fab composable function in this floating action button parameter. Here we will pass that. So like this we will pass this list fab in that floating action button parameter, and this on fab click I have left it blank right now. We will give the functionality later. So now we can see the changes. Let's run the app. So here we can see our floating action button is also perfectly placed, and now we can see our chart. So here we can see we have created this first screen. Now let's move on to this next type of a screen. So here what are the changes? So when there will be any patient item, so we will place that patient item like this. For the content of this scaffold, instead of that box layout, we will use a lazy column layout. What this lazy column is? Lazy column simply, first there is a column layout. Column layout is simply where children are placed above and below. And what this lazy means? Lazy means Android system will only create only those items which are visible on the screen. So whenever there is a big list of items like 50 list and only 10 items are shown on the screen, so only those 10 will be created by the Android system. So when user scroll, when those items will be visible, then the Android system also create those items. So like this, the resources will be used at minimal. So this is the meaning of lazy. So here for these items, we will use a lazy column layout. And in that lazy column layout, we will place a card layout for every single patient item. First, we will create a patient item. Now let's go to the Android Studio, and here let's minimize this. And in this patient list package, I will create a new file for a single patient list item. So let's name it patient item, and let's take this here. Let's create a composable function patient item. For every single patient there will be some properties like name, age, gender, like this. So for that, here in our patient tracker package, let's create one more package named domain, and in that domain there will be a model package. And here let's create a patient data class. So in this patient data class, we will use all these properties like name, age, gender, doctor assigned, prescription, and patient ID. This patient class we will use through the parameters. So here, first let's close this file, and here we will pass a patient object through a parameter. Here I have created this patient item. So first let's see the design of that screen. For this we can see, first we will take a card layout. So here I have taken this card layout. In that card layout there will be a clickable functionality because whole card should be a clickable. So this clickable we will use through the parameters. So here let's create one more parameter on item click, and let's use that on click functionality here. And this elevation means there will be some shadow behind this card, so I have used this 4 dp elevation. And what will be the content of this card? So let's first see the design. So here we can see, first we will take a row layout, so like this. Let's see. First I have taken this row layout, and in that row layout I have used this fill max size modifier. So whatever will be the parent size of this row layout means this card size, so this row will take the whole card size. And this padding, so there will be some spacing around the card. And this vertical alignment means vertically the children of this row layout should be center. And in that row layout, first we will take a column layout, and that column layout should take the 90% of the width of that row layout, and this icon should take 1%, 10%. So like this, the children of this row layout should be a column, and there should be an icon button. So this column layout will take 90% width, and with the help of this weight modifier, and this icon button should use the 10% width. And this column child of this column layout should be two text composables like this. So first let's see the design. Here we can see these are two text composables. So first let's pass this item layout in our screen. So here the content of this scaffold, let's use lazy column. So like this we will use a lazy column layout. So in this lazy column layout, first I have provided the content padding. What this content padding is, there should be a some space around this lazy column. So I have provided this 16 dp. So there should be a 16 dp spacing around all the four sides of this lazy column. And this vertical arrangement, what this means, that it means between every items there should be 16 dp space. So here we will use a list of all items. So first here let's create some dummy values for items. So here I have created these two dummy values for patient. So this patient list we will provide here with the help of this items block. So here let's take this list, and here for every patient in that list we will pass to that patient item composable which we created like this. And for this box layout, let's use an if condition. If patient list dot is empty, then only we will show this layout like this. So now we can run our app and see these changes. So here we can see our both patient items are looking perfectly fine, and also we can see our app supports dark mode. So let's put it in the dark mode. Now we can see our app is also supporting dark mode. Now next functionality what we will provide, so when user click on this delete icon, then that delete dialog should show up. So we will provide that delete dialog functionality. For that, let's minimize this and let's go to our design. Now we will design this delete dialog. So this will be very simple dialog. So let's go to our Android Studio, and in that presentation package, here in this patient list package, let's create one more file named delete dialog. Let's create a composable function delete dialog, and in this composable function we will take alert dialog. This alert dialog composable function, this also comes with the compose library, so we will use this. So here we can provide through the various parameters, like first we will provide title. We will provide the title through the parameters, so let's take title. So these are the parameters which come through the alert dialog composable. So here in this title parameter, I have provided this text composable where I will use this h6 text styling, and this title text we will provide through the parameter of this delete dialog composable, and in the same way the text of that dialog should also come through the parameter, and there should be a confirm button and there should be a dismiss button, like we can see in our design. So these are two buttons. So these two buttons should be text buttons. First should be a yes button for confirm, and for dismiss there should be a no button, and there should be a on dismiss request. So whenever user click outside the dialog box, delete dialog will disappear. So we will use few more things through the parameters, like on dialog dismiss and on confirm button clicked, like this. So let's attach these two with their clickable functionality. So like this we will create delete dialog. So let's use this delete dialog in that patient item. So here let's create a value. Let's click on this, and here let's find this runtime, and here let's import two more values, get value and this set value. So this, now we can see this is not giving error. So this show dialog we will use, like with the help of if condition we will say if this show dialog is true, then we will show that delete dialog this. Now let's pass these parameters. First this title should be delete, and this message should be So we will provide this message. Are you sure you want to delete patient? And we can see I have used this slash because I have to put inverted commas. So here that's why I have used this slash. So now we will see how this show dialog will change. So whenever user click on this delete icon, so then this show dialog should be true. So let's provide true. And whenever user click on this on dialog, dismiss means when user has clicked on this no text button or outside that dialog. So in that case we will again assign this show dialog value true false like this. So like this show value will change. So whenever this show value will be true, so this delete dialog will come up. And this on confirm button means user has clicked on that yes button. So in that case we will delete that item from our database. So we will provide that functionality through the parameter on delete confirm like this. And here we can see on delete confirm. And also when user click on this yes button, in that case also this show dialog value should be false. So now we can go to our patient list screen, and here let's pass that on delete confirm. Let's leave it blank right now. And now it's not giving any more errors. Now let's run our app and see these changes. So now let's click on this delete icon. So here we can see our delete dialog is showing, and also we can see this patient name is also showing in that delete dialog. So when user click outside the delete dialog, this will go away. And again let's click on this delete dialog, and here if user click on this no button, in the same way it will dismiss. And in that yes button, so right now we have not provided the functionality, but it will right now it will only dismiss but will not delete the item. So this is the thing. Now next thing what we will do, let's go to our design, and here we will create this patient details screen next. For this screen we can see we can take a scaffold, and in that scaffold first we will place this top app bar, and then there are some text fields. So let's go to our Android Studio and let's minimize it, and here we will create one more package named patient detail. And in that package let's create one more file, patient details screen. So here first let's create a composable function named patient details screen, and in that composable first we will take a scaffold layout, and in that scaffold first we will take top bar parameter, and this here let's take a column, and now first we will create this top app bar. So here let's create, and apart from this title we will also use navigation item because there should be a back button. So for that let's take icon button, So like this we will create a top app bar. So here I have provided the title and a navigation icon because there should be an icon, back icon. So here I have used this icon button, and in that icon button there is an icon, and let's use this top app bar here. Now what we can do, because right now we have not provided the navigation functionality, so what we will do for seeing the preview of this patient details screen, we will delete this patient details list screen and pass that patient details screen, and now we can run our app and see the preview of this screen. So here we can see our patient list screen. This top app bar is looking good. Now what next we will do? Let's see the design. First we will create outline text field. So here let's minimize it, and again let's go to our screen, and in that column layout first I have taken this fill max size, so this will take the whole screen size. So in this column layout, I will use a outline text field. So this is the text field I have used. So in that text field, first I have taken this fill max width modifier. So what it will do, it will take the whole width of the phone's screen, because this column layout is taking the whole screen, so it will take the whole width of that screen. So and this value and on value change we will discuss it little bit later. So right now I have left it blank, and this label is this, we can see it is also work as a hint, and when user types on, it will go on top of that line. And after this label there is a text style, so in that outline text field we will use body1 text style, and this single line means that outline text field should always be a single line, because whenever user press enter on the keyboard, so it will not go into the multi-line outline text field, it will always be single line. First let's see this much changes in our app. So here we can see our outline text field is looking good. Now next thing what we have to do, we have to use a row layout. Here we can see we will use a row layout, and in that row layout first it will be, there will be a outline text field. After that there should be a these radio buttons for this gender thing. So let's go to our Android Studio and minimize this one. So after this outline text field we will take a row layout. So here I have used this row layout, and for this row layout again I have used this fill max width. So here we can delete the fill max width and let's use a weight modifier. So what this weight modifier will do, whatever width will be left after those radio buttons, so this outline text field will take all that width. So with the help of this weight modifier, because I will not give weight to those radio buttons. Now let's here create a composable function for those radio buttons. Let's name it radio group. So like this we will create a radio group. So first let's see a design. So here for that radio group I have created just this part. So for this part there should be a row layout, and in that row layout there should be a radio button, and there should be a text. So in the same way I have created a radio group composable function, and in that composable function I have used this row layout. So this whole row layout should be clickable. If user tries to click on this text, so it should also work. So for that reason I have used this clickable modifier for that row, and we will use that on click functionality through the parameter. And in that row layout there is a radio button. So if it is selected or not selected, we will use through the parameter. Like this I have changed the colors of this row button layout. So selected color, this is the same primary color I have pasted on that theme package color file. This, and let's go to here, this primary color we will use here. And after this there should be a text composable. So let's use this radio group in that row layout. After this a radio group for male, and then radio group for female. So like this we will use this radio group, and let's copy it and paste it here, and let's change it to female, and let's provide this value to false. So these values I have, so this true value and false value, right now I have just provided the hard coded value. We will change it dynamically. So, and also this on click functionality I have left it blank right now. And now we can run our app and see these changes. So this is our code. So let's run our app. Now we can see our screen looking good. Now few more changes we need to do is there should be some space between these two. Also this age label should be changed. So for that let's go to our code, and after this name text field let's use spacer for giving space. Let's take spacer of height 10 dp, and after this row also there should be some space, and in that row instead of this name there should be age. And after this radio group there should also be some space. Let's take width of 10 dp. And one more thing we need to change is this: when user click on this age text field, then number keyboard should show up. So for that, in this text field here we will change some parameters. So with the help of this keyboard option parameter we can change the keyboard type to number keyboard. Now let's see the design. So after this row there should be a text field for this assigned doctor's name, and for that this prescription. So let's go to our code and copy this text field, and after this spacer let's paste it here, and let's change the label. And after this prescription text field there should be a button. So let's take button, like this we will create a button, and this on click functionality we will give later. So now we can run our app and see these changes. So here we can see our app screen. Few things we need to change to this screen. First thing is there should be some space between this save button and this prescription text field, and this prescription text field should take rest of the width of the screen. So for these two things, let's go to our code and let's copy this spacer and paste it here. And this prescription text field, let's provide the weight. So with the help of this weight, this prescription text field will take rest of the width which are available. Let's remove it because this prescription field text field can be of multi-line. First let's run our app again. Now we can see this prescription text field is multi-line, but few things we need to change that. Whenever this app open, this name text field should be focused, and this keyboard should come up automatically, and also this right now we can save button has been hide behind this keyboard, and also this prescription text field has hide. So for these two changes, what we can do, let's go to our manifest file. For that button is hiding, we can use something like Windows soft input mode, adjust resize this. Now let's click on this name text field. Now we can see this prescription text box, and this save button has automatically gone up because of that keyboard. So this is the thing we can achieve with the help of this line. Next thing we need to work that whenever this screen opens, so we don't need to click on this name text field. It should automatically be focused and the user should start typing. So for that, let's minimize this and let's go to our patient details screen, and here we will create one variable. So this is how we will create focus requester. Let's rename it like this. So now we need to specify which text field needs to be focused. So we need to be focused this name text field. So here let's use like this. We will, with the help of this focus requester modifier, we will pass this focus requester, and whenever this screen opens, so we need to specify that this focus requester need to be request focus. For that, let's use launched effect. So with the help of this launch effect block, we will use this request focus. So what this launched effect is, launched effect, in this launched effect block, we specify all those code which are non-composable and which code require coroutines. Like this delay function is suspend function. So if I call this delay function outside this launch effect, so it will give error. So that's why I have used in this launched effect, and this launched effect requires key. So what I have provided this unit key. So unit means it will run one time. So whenever this patient details screen opens, so it will take a delay of 500 millisecond, and then it will request the focus. Why I have provided this delay? Because whenever this screen will compose, so it will take some milliseconds. That's why after delay of 500 millisecond means half second, so I have requested this request focus. Let's run our app again. Now we can see when our app opens, so it automatically has focused on this name text field, and this keyboard has also been opened. So this is working totally fine. So now next thing what we will do, we will work on this. Right now we can see on this name text field this keyboard has opened, and this keyboard we can see there is a right button. So this button is called IME action button. So right now it is done. So what we need next button. So whenever user types some name, like right now we can see it's not typing because we have not provided the functionality, but whenever user click on this text field, so it what it should do, it should move the focus from this name text field to this age text field. And when the keyboard is on this name text field, so it should move the focus from next text field. So we will work on this thing. So let's minimize this, and here let's create one more variable. So like this we will create a variable for focus manager. So now on this name text field, let's change that IME action to from that done to next. So for that let's use keyboard option parameter. So like this, with the help of this keyboard option parameter, first we will define that we need the next IME action, and with the help of this keyboard action we will provide the functionality of this on next. So whenever we click on that on next IME action, what we will do with the help of this focus manager variable, we will move the focus from the next text field. So this one is the next text field, this age, and here first we will provide that we also need IM action next, and that functionality let's copy from here like this. So again we will say we need focus to the next text field. So first let's copy these two things and paste on this and assign doctors text field. We will be needing same functionality, and on this prescription, because this is the last text field, so and this is also multi-line text field, so we only need the enter functionality because user can enter to the next line. So we don't need that IME action. So now we can run our app and see these changes. Here we can see when our app opens, so this name text field has been focused automatically. And now we can see this IMA action has been changed from that done to next. Now let's click on this next. Now we can see this focus has been moved from name to age, and again let's press this next. Again this has been moved, and now we can see this has been moved to prescription, and we have not provided on that. So we can see this is enter. So here we can use the enter text field. So now we can see this text fields are working perfectly fine. So now next thing we will work on this. When we type something on this text field, so now we can see there is nothing changing. So why this is happening? So first let's see, let's minimize this, and here let me type two things. So these are the two things we need to learn. First is state. State means anything that can change during the usage of application. So whenever user use the app, so anything that can change, so that is state. So first let's see the emulator. And here when user type something, so this the value of this name text field will change. So the value of this name text field is state. And also this gender is selected or not selected, this is also a state, because it can change during the usage of app. So these are the states. And what are the events? Events means anything that can user do. So in this screen, user can put the some text on this text field, on this name text field, and also on this age text field user can put something. So these are the events. And also the user can select this, and user can click on this save button. So these are all are events. These two things, states and events, we manage these two things in the view model. So first let's create the view model, and there we will manage the events and states. In this patient details package, let's create a view model. Here we will extend this class from to the view model. So this app should know that this is our view models. And here what we will do, first we will see how this text fields work. So right now I have provided this value of this text field to blank, and this on value change to again blank. So for that, let's go to our view model, and here, so like this we will create a state. So here this is giving error because we need to import these two. Now we can see this get value has been imported, so it is not giving error. And let's take it where again it is saying error, so let's import another value. And that, let's create one function. So like this I have created a new function. What this function will do, it will take a new value and it will assign that new value to this name text field. So let's go to our patient details screen, and here let's create a view model. So this view model, so here in on this name text field, what we will do, we will say view model dot name, and this on name change here. What this on value change will do, whenever user types some text with the keyboard, so it will give that take that as a string, and it will, what we will do, we will use that on name change function, and we will provide that text to this function. And in that view model function, here we can see what we are doing, we are just providing that new value to this name state. And here again we are reading that whatever the updated name state value is. So now we can go to our main activity, and let's create an instance of view model. So like this we will create a view instance of view model, and I have provided that to our patient details screen. So now we can run our app and see these changes. Now let's type some text like now we can see this our text field is working perfectly fine. So how this is working, so let me explain one more time. So let's go to our patient details screen, and this on value change, what it is doing, let's open our app. And what this on value change is doing, whatever string is coming from that keyword, it is providing through this on value change function. So what we are doing, we are calling that on name change function, and we are providing that new string value to this function. And on that, what that function is doing, it is just changing the new value to that named state, and that name state we are reading here. So this is how text fields work. So now we can see, if I try to type on this text field, this will not work because I have not provided the functionality of these text fields. So if I try to make states of every text field like this, by like age and this prescription and these, now we can see there are many lines we need to type. So what we can do, there are better way. So first what we will do, we will create a data class for all these states, and we will put all these states in that data class, and we will change only that data class. So for that, in that, first let's delete all these, and here let's create one more file like this patient detail UI states, and it will be of data class. So here we will keep all our states. So like this, these are our states. So I have also provided the initial value. So for this gender, it will be of int type. Initially, I have given it 0 value, because whenever user click on that male, so I will provide the 1 value, and for that female, I will provide the 2 value. So like this, we will manage this gender state. So now let's go to our view model and create that single state class. Here we can see this is giving error. So what we can do? So again this is giving error because we will keep it where. So like this, we can update the states of this state class. Now the next thing is, if I create function for every text field, again this will be of many lines. So again what we can do, we can make a separate class and keep all those events in that class and make a single function. So for that, let's create a new class, patient details events, and this will be of sealed class. So here we will keep all our events. So like this, we will make a sealed class for all our events. So I have used an object or a data class. So what's the difference between these? So if with the user's action something is coming into the app, so we will make that event like data class, and if nothing is coming, then we will make an object. So whenever user type any name, so name text field, name string will come. So that's why I have used this data class, and whenever user click on this save button, so nothing will come. So that's why I have used these things as an object. Let's go to our view model and create a single function for all these events. So like this, I have created a on event on event function, and let's press alt enter on this when and add remaining branches like this. So here we can see these are all our events. So now this same thing, what we will do, instead of in this separate function, we will update the state in these functions like this. And here this is saying event dot name like this. And let's copy this and update all other text fields. So like this we update all our states. So now we can attach these functions from our screen. And first let's delete this function because we don't need anymore. And let's go to our patient details screen, and here first let's create an like this. So in this first text field, what how we will attach. So like this we update. So here we, instead of this 8, we can say new value, and let's provide that new value like this. So like this we can update all our values. Let's copy this thing. So like this we update all our text fields. So and one more functionality we will give on these. So how this will be calculated if this is selected or not. So like this we will check if the value of this gender in that state class is 1. If that is 1, then this male value is selected. If that state of that gender value is 2, then this female is selected, because initially it will be 0, so none will be selected. On this on click function, I have attached this selected male event. So like this, when this event will call, so what it will do, it will provide the gender value to 2 and 1 like this. Now we can run our app and see these changes. Now let's type some. So now we can see all these text fields and this radio buttons are working perfectly fine. And if I try to click on this save button, this will not work because I have not provided that functionality. Now we can see this screen is working perfectly fine. So next thing what we will do, we will work on that navigation, because right now what we are doing, let's go to our main activity. Right now what we are doing, we are just providing that particular screen and seeing the preview of that screen. But it should be like, if user click on any item, so it should navigate to the details screen. And if on that details screen, if a user clicks on this back button, so it should navigate back to that main list screen. So this navigation thing we will now next work. Let's minimize this. For that navigation, let's create one more package, navigation, and here let's create one more file. Here I have created a composable function named navgraph setup. So in this function I will keep all the navigation logic. So with the navigation compose there is a function called navhost. So with the help of this navhost we will provide navigation. So this nav host requires two things, nav controller and start destination. First nav controller we will provide through the parameter of this function of type nav controller, and we will create the instance of this controller in our main activity. So first let's delete these two things, and here we will create nav controller. Remember nav controller like this, and here we will call that composable function nav graph setup, and we will provide the nav controller through this parameter. And let's go back to our nav graph, and here let's pass this nav controller. It is giving error because instead of this nav controller we require nav host controller, this one. And here we need to provide the start destination. So what will be the start destination? So let's go to our design. So here the navigation, here we can see this screen, list screen will be our start destination, and what will be the route of this screen. So we need to provide a route, something like string type. So this route I will provide for this screen, and this route for this screen. And let's go back to our Android Studio, and here let's type this route, patient list screen. And here we need to provide all those screens which are part of the navigation. So we have two screens. So for that those two screen, first we will take composable. Here we need to provide the route and the screen file, patient list screen. This is our composable for that screen, and route will be the same like this one. And let's create one more composable for second screen. This will be the route of our second screen, and this view model I have provided this temporary basis because when we will use the Hilt library, Dagger Hilt library, so Dagger Hilt provide the view model instance automatically. And why this the route of this first screen is simple, and why the route of this second screen is this complicated. First let's go to our design. Here we can see that when we go to this screen, list screen, to this detail screen, we need to pass some ID, because when user click on this patient item, the details of that patient should open on this details screen. So we need to pass a patient ID from list screen to that details screen. That's why the route of that second is like that. So here I have provided this question mark, means this will be a optional argument. So the name of that argument is patient ID, and here we will provide the patient ID. So the default value should be this, like this. And with the route we need to specify that this screen needs some arguments. So like this we specify that the arguments. So we need to provide the list of all the arguments because we have only one argument. So I have provided the name of that argument should be patient ID like this, and it will be of type integer type, and the default value should be -1 because this is an optional argument. That's why we need to provide the default value also. So like this our navigation will work. Now we will be needing that on click functionality, because let's go to our design. So how we can move from this list screen to that details screen? We can navigate in two ways. Like if a user click on any of the items, then it can navigate to this details screen. If user click on that floating action button, then also it can navigate to this details screen. So these two clickable functionality we need to provide. For that, let's go to our Android Studio, and here in this patient list screen we will use those on click functionality through the parameters of this function on fab clicked, and for that second thing on item clicked like this. So let's attach these two things to their respective clickable functionality. First one this should be, and second one this. On item clicked this one, and here in this we will provide these both functionalities. So when user click on this on fab clicked, what we will do with the help of this nav controller, we will navigate to this route. So what this route is? This route is the route of this screen. And for that item click, let's go back to our screen. Here on this screen, we will pass also some integer value for that patient ID. So this will be of nullable type, and here we will say on item click, and the ID should be patient ID. Like this we will pass through this parameter, and here in this nav graph, here we can see some ID is coming, so we will use for that navigation. Like this we can navigate from one screen to another screen. And how we can go back from this screen, patient details screen, to this screen? So let's go to our design. So if user click on this back button, so it should navigate back to the list screen. Here first we will be needing providing that on click functionality on back clicked, and let's attach through this app bar on back clicked, and here we will say now we can run our app and see is this navigation working or not. Now if I click on this floating action button, now we can see I have been navigated to this patient details screen, and if I click on this back button, so again I have moved back to main screen. If I click on this first item, again we can see I have been navigated to this screen. So we can see this navigation is working perfectly fine. Now let's minimize this app, and now here we can see there are so many things which are repeating itself, like this patient details screen is again repeating. If we will use like this, we can make some mistakes, like if I use this S, then this will not work. So what we can do, we can create a helper class, and we will use that helper class for this navigation. So let's create a sealed class for all the screens route. So like this we will create a helper class for that screens routes. And how we can use these routes? For this patient list route, here we can see we can use like screen dot patient list dot route like this. Now we can see if we use like this there are less chances of error. And let's use the route of this details screen. So here we can see our navigation file is looking more good. And now one more thing we can do, that right now we can see this patient ID is repeating many times. Here also we can make some mistakes. For that what we can do, we can create a file for all constants. So here let's create a package util, and in this util let's create a file constants like this. It will be of object. So here let's say constant val patient details argument key, or and simply we will say patient ID. And we will use this patient details arg key everywhere wherever patient ID is used. Now we can see our file is looking more good. So now there are less chances of error. Like this we can write better code. So now again we can see our navigation will work perfectly fine. So let's run one more time. So now our app has been run. So let's click on this floating action button. It's working fine. And let's click on this item. This is also working fine. Now the for that next thing, let's minimize this and let's go to our design. Now the next thing we will work on this local database. What this local database is? There are many ways we can save the data of the patients. Like we can save the data of our patients to some server, and we can also save the database to the phone's storage, means apps storage. If we decide to save the database data of that those all those patients to our phone's storage, it means we are using the local database. So for that local database in Android there is a very good library, room database library. This room library will provide the many functionality. So there are three things in this room library. One thing is entity. What this entity is? Entity is simply you can think like of an Excel table. Means what are the fields we need to save. In our case, for our patient, we need to save these five or six fields like name, age, gender, doctor assigned, prescription, and this patient ID. So this will be our entity. And there is one more thing, that is data access object. So how we can access the data from that database? So in this data access object means DAO, we need to provide some functions. Like we will provide the four different functions. First one will be upsert means add or update patient, for adding the patient. And another function will be for deleting the patient, and two more function will also be there. And there will be a base class. So in this database class we need to specify what is our entity and what is our DAO. So these things will comprise the room database. For this entity, let's go to our Android Studio, and here in that domain class we created that patient data class. So this patient data class, we will say this will be our entity for the room database, because the field of that entity is exactly same of this data class. So for that, here we need to specify that this is our entity. Here we can see this annotation is coming from the room library. So now we are saying that this is our entity, and also we need to specify the name of our table. This is also some constant. So what we can do, we can just cut from here and go to our constant file, and here we will say constant val, and let's attach this constant to our table. And one more thing, what we need to do, that this patient id, this entity should generate itself automatically this patient id, because we will not provide the patient id through our app. So here we will say this will be our primary key. Primary key means this will be the key which will be which will distinguish every patient. So here we will say auto generate to true. Through this entity will generate the patient id itself. So now we have created the entity class. Now next thing what we need to do, we need to create a DAO class. For that, let's create a package called data, and in that data it should be local, because we will be using local database. And here let's create a new interface called patient DAO. And in this patient DAO, first we will specify that this is our DAO, like this. And here we will create 4 functions to interact with our database. So like this, I have created 4 functions. Now this DAO will not know that which function do what action. So we need to specify that which functions will do what action. So for this first one, we will say this function will do the upsert functionality. Upsert, what we it will do when we press Ctrl Q, so it will provide the documentation. Here we can see insert the data into the database, and if it is already exist, it what it will do, it will just update the database. So this upsert function will do the both things. For this delete, we can just say delete. So with the help of this annotation, we can delete the patient, and we need to access patient by the id. For that, we need to specify query. So this is will be our query. Select everything from patient table, where patient ID is equal to whatever patient ID we have provided. So similarly, we will provide a query for this function also. Only difference will be we will take everything from the patient table, like this. Through these annotations, we can specify which function will do what action. Now, one more thing we need to do is these should work on the coroutines, through the coroutines. For that, we need to specify that for that first function, it should be suspend function, and again this will be suspend function, and here also we will use this suspend function. But for this function we will not use suspend. Instead we will do, we will say we will use flow. So this flow is also from coroutines. So here we will say we will return the flow. So with the help of these suspend keyword and flow, we can use the coroutines. So now we have provided our DAO. Now the one more thing we will need to provide is the database. For that, first let's clear all these files, and here in our local package, here we will create one more class called patient database. And again we need to annotate this to the database annotation, because we need to specify that this is our database class. And here we need to specify what are our entities and what are our DAOs. What this version means, if I do any changes in this entity after using this initially, then I need to provide some other version like 2, because I have made some changes. Right now I am using it first time, that's why I have provided its version to 1. So here we need also extend it to room database class, this one. And here I will provide. So this is all related to room database. Now the room database code has completed. This was all room database. Now the next thing what we will do, we will see how our data will flow through the app. So how it will flow? First, there at the top level, what is there? There is a DAO. DAO is talking to the database and it is accessing that I need to update an item or I need to delete an item. Now, how this the data flow from that DAO to our screen? First, there will be some repository class in between these things, and that repository we will use that repository class to talk to the view model, and we will create an implementation of that repository class, and that repository class implementation will talk to the DAO. Like this our data will flow. So for this is very simple app. So these repository class will be nothing like similar function to the DAO. So in that domain package we need to specify one more package called repository, and in that repository we need to create an interface called patient repository. So in that patient repository there will be a very similar function like that DAO. So like this I have created these 4 functions. These are very exactly same to that DAO functions. So we will create an implementation of this repository in our data package. Here let's create one more package, repository, and in that repository package let's create one more class, patient DAO, and it will extend to that patient repository class interface. And here let's press Ctrl I and implement all those members. Here we just need to connect the functions of those repository to that DAO function. So like this, we will connect our repository implementation to our patient DAO. Now the next thing is we need to connect our repository class, this patient repository class to our view model. So for that, let's go to our presentation class and here patient details class, and in this patient details view model, here we will say private, and we will, for that patient list, let's create one more class for that patient list view model. So like this data will flow. Now if I try to use the functionality of inserting or updating or deleting, so these functionality will not work. Why? There are few reasons, like first let's clear these files and let's go to the repository implementation. Here we can see this repository implementation class needs an instance of patient DAO, but it doesn't know from where it needs to get and how it needs to create an instance of this patient DAO. So this is the first problem. And second thing is, in our view model, when we go to the view model, so here we can see this view model also needs the repository class, but again here I have created an instance, but it doesn't know how it will create the instance of patient repository and from where it will get the data, because this is the interface, and but we need the data from the implementation. So these are the things which will stop from working the app. So how we can deal with this thing? For that, let's go to the design. For that thing, we need to use the Dagger Hilt. So what Dagger Hilt will do, it will give the dependency injection. Means that if I go to this class, here this patient repository implementation class is depend on this patient DAO, but it doesn't know how to create. So this dependency injection means this dependency we will inject through the Dagger Hilt. So for that, first few things we need to do. First we need to create an application class and annotate that class with Hilt Android app. So this Dagger Hilt should know which is the application class. So it should know how to create the instance of application. For that, in our package, let's create one more file. So now this Dagger, we can see this annotation is coming from Dagger Hilt. Now this Dagger Hilt knows how to create an instance of this application and what is the application. And the next thing what we need to do, add that this application class to the Android manifest class. So for that, let's go to the Android manifest class, and here let's add that class like this. And the next thing what we need to do, there is main one activity in our application, that is main activity. So we need to annotate that activity to that Android entry point. So let's close these files and go to the main activity, and here let's say Android entry point. So this is our entry point because the code starts running from this file. That's why we need to annotate this with Android entry point. And the next thing what we need to do, annotate all the view models will with hilt view model. So with this annotation, it will, what it will do, it will create the instance of view model itself. So for those two view models, let's open, and here let's annotate it with hilt view model like this. And also we need to inject these classes through the inject annotation, inject constructor like this. And same thing we need to do to the other view model. So let's go to this view model, and both the screens class, let's open. Here we can see we are using this view model. So here we can pass the this hilt view model. So with this hilt view model, hilt itself will create an instance of this view model. So let's go to our navigation file. Here earlier we created the instance of this view model. Now we don't need anymore. We can delete this like this, because right now we can see this hilt is itself providing the instance of this view model. In the similar way, let's go to the other list screen, and here also let's use that view model. Now the last thing is we need to create a module where we will provide the functions for creating the object of all those classes. So for that, let's create a package called di, and in that di package, let's create a class app module, and it will be of type object. Here we need to annotate it with module, because Dagger should know this is our module. And also we need to annotate it with install in and singleton component class like this. Now we need to provide the functions for creating objects. What are the objects we need to create? First object is that DAO, for that database object. So this database object we need to create. For that, let's create a function with, so here also we need to annotate it with provides function. So this Dagger should know that this function is for providing the instance. And again this will be of singleton type, means single object will be created for whole application. And here which instance we need to create, we need to say patient database. This class instance we need to create, we need to provide the return of this function. So here how we will create, here we need to provide the context. For that context, let's say app. So this application context, it for this, the instance of this application, this Dagger Hilt will itself create, because we already specified an application class. And here we will use that application context. And next thing we need to provide the class. Which one is the class? So our class is this patient database. Now the next thing is the name of the database. So again we can say use save the name in our constant file. Now let's say .build like this. This is how we will create an instance of this room database. Now the next thing is that let's go to our view model. Here we can see we are using the repository interface, but our DAO is attached to that implementation. So how it will know that there is a implementation of this interface? So again we need to provide the instance of this interface. For that again we need to say, and it will return patient repository because we need instance of this repository. How it will create? We will say return patient repository implementation. But this patient repository implementation needs DAO. So again, because we already have provided the instance of database, so we can use the instance of that database like db is equal to patient database. We can use the instance of that database and provide DAO like db dot patient DAO like this. So this is how it will know that the patient repository implementation is there with the name of patient repository implementation. Now we can see these two provide function is not calling from anywhere, but Dagger Hilt will create the instance itself through these provide functions. So now we can run our app and see that our app is working fine or not. Now we can see our app is working fine, and also we can see these provide functions are also calling. It means they have created the instance. So now let's we close all these files. Now the next thing we will provide the functionality of adding patient details into the local room database. For that, let's go to our patient details view model. Here in our view model, after this on event function, let's create one more function named save patient. So this is how we will create the save patient function. I have kept this function as a private because we will use this function in this view model class only. Here we are using this view model scope dot launch. So in this way this coroutine will launch. So in this launch block what we are doing, we are calling the repository. Here we have passed this patient repository, and in that repository we are calling that add or update patient function, and that function requires patient object. So here what we are doing, we are providing the patient details by calling these states updated values like this. So now let's attach this on this save button event, and let's attach this save button event with the UI. So let's go to the patient details, and here, so like this I have attached this with the UI. So now we can run and see these changes. Now our app has run, and Android Studio also provide the functionality of room database preview. So for that, first let's minimize this emulator and let's go to this app inspection. and here let's wait few seconds. So now we can see this Android Studio. Here we can also inspect our database. So now it is showing that nothing to show. So now let's use our app and insert a patient details into our database. For that, let's put some detail. So like this, when we click on this save button, we can see that this database will come up and we can see these all details. So let's click on this save, and here we can see now our database has come when we click on this patient table. So let's double click on this. Here we can see in this patient table whatever details we provided, it is showing. So we can see our insert function is working perfectly fine. And now next thing what we will work on, that when we click on this save button, so it should navigate to that list screen, and that list screen should also update with the or with all the details which are in the patient's list table, and that patient list screen should also update with all the entries in the patient table. So for that, let's minimize this, and let's minimize this database inspector also. And first, when we click on this button, we should navigate back to list screen. For that, in this on click, let's provide one more parameter, and let's attach this with this button, and let's go to our nav graph, and here we can see this is giving error. So let's say on save click, so this again this will be same like nav controller dot navigate up. So in this way we can provide that functionality. Next thing what we need to do, let's go to our patient list screen. We are providing this hard coded patient list screen. We also need to fetch all the patient list whichever in the database. For that, let's go to our patient list view model. So this is how we will fetch our patient list. So first I have created this patient list variable, and it will be of mutable state. Here we are using this init block. So what this init block means, since in our patient list screen there is no button to fetch our details, so what we are doing, we are calling this init block. So this init block will call this function automatically whenever this patient list view model create. So in this way we are fetching these details. So here again we are calling this view model scope.launch, and we are calling that repository. In that repository get all patient. Here in this way we will collect all our patient list. So now let's go to our screen and let's use that patient list in our screen. Right now it is giving error because we need to import those get value and set value. So let's use this import, and here we will use that patient list in our lazy column, and also if that patient list is empty we will show this box. So now we can run our app again and see is this working or not. So here we can see our patient list screen is fetching all those items which are in that database. So again, now let's insert one more data like this. First, let's open that app inspection and that patient, and let's click on this live update, and here let's click on this save button. Now we can see it has been updated with that new value, and our patient list has also fetched that, and we can also see this patient ID, it is generating automatically. Now the next thing we need to work on that, like when we click on this fab button and try to type some name, some name, and if I click on this save button right now, what it will do, it will just save the something into that database, and we can see these values are empty right now, but still it can save. Let's click on this save button. So here we can see it has been saved with the blank values. So we need to keep a check on that thing, that whenever user tries to input some patient details, so it should not be blank. So for that, let's minimize this, and let's minimize this patient table also, and let's go to our patient details view model. What we will do first, let's after this view model, let's create a exception class, custom exception class. So this is how we create custom exception class. So here I have created this text field exception, and it has been extended with this exception class. So what we will do when we save the patient, so here we will put some checks. So that's how we will put checks on this save patient function. So here what we are doing first, whatever age there is in that state class, we are converting that to integer value. So with this function, it will return the integer value. If it fails to parse that string to int, so it will provide the null value. So here we are checking that if that age is null, or it is less than 0, or it is greater than 100, it means we need to throw a exception, please enter valid age. And here we are checking that if these fields are empty, then we will throw these exception. And here we are checking that if gender in that state class is equal to 0, it means that user has not selected either male or female. So again we will throw this exception. And here what we are doing, we are taking that name field in that state class, and we are using this trim function. So this trim function, what it will do, let's press Ctrl Q. So it will remove the white spacing before the name and after the name. Again, we are doing the same thing with this doctor assigned. So here, like this, we will update our patient details. Now the next thing what we need to do, whenever user click on that save button, so either we will save the patient detail or we will show a toast. For these two things, we will create a UI event class. So like this, I have created this UI event for those two things. So for this class, let's create a value here. So like this, we will use this shared flow. So on that save button event, let's use that. So on this save button event here like this we will use. First what we will do, we will try this save calling this save patient details function. If this save patient function throws any type of these exception, so here what we are doing, we are catching that exception and we are providing that message to this UI event.showToast function. So now let's go to our patient details screen and here let's use those UI events. This is how we will collect those events. So what we are doing, we are collecting those events with the help of this when function. So if that event is save node, so here what we are doing, we are calling that on save clicked this. Let's change this name to on successful saving. So here what we are doing, if that save node event comes, then we are navigating back to that list screen and we are also showing a toast successfully saved. And here if we get some exception, then we are showing a toast with that exception message. So now let's go to here and let's delete this because we are using this thing here. So now we can run our app and see this change. So our app has run. So let's click on this fab button and here let's try to put some detail. Initially if I try to click on this save button, then you can see this is showing a toast. Please enter name. So let's put some name like David and here let's use this 25 age and if I try to save, then now it is showing please select gender. Let's call this male and here some doctor, some new. And if I now type again, it is saying prescription it needs. So now if I try to save, because I have provided all these details, now it should save the details. Now we can see it is showing successfully saved toast and it is also fetching that detail. So now the next thing we will work on this, when we click on this delete icon. Now if I try to click on this yes button, so what it should do, it should delete that item from this list and also from the database. So for that, let's minimize it and go to our patient list view model. And here let's create one more function. So I have created this delete patient function. So here what we are doing, we are just calling this view model scope.launch, and here from that repository class we are calling this delete patient function. So let's attach this function with the UI. So let's go to our patient list screen, and here there is a on click functionality of on delete confirm. So here we will call that function. So now again we can run our app and see this change. Now our app has run, so let's open that database inspector also. Let's click on this app inspection. Here let's click on this live update and let's open here. Now I will delete this some patient details that item. So let's click on this delete icon, and here let's click on this yes. So here we can see that item has also been deleted from our database also. Now we can see this deleting functionality is also working perfectly. Now the last functionality we need to work on that, like if I click on any of this item. So let's click on this David, and now we can see this patient details screen has not fetched the details of that David patient. We need to work on this thing now. So for that, let's minimize this simulator and this also. Let's go to patient details view model, and first here I will create a variable for current patient ID. So like this, it will be initially will be null. So here let's create one more function called fetch patient details. So like this, it will be a private function. So let's open this emulator and let's click on this back button. So here what we need to do, whenever user click on any of this item, so what we need to do, we need to pass a patient ID to this screen. We are already doing this thing in our navigation graph. Let's go to our graph, and here we can see whenever we click on any of this item, we are providing the patient ID also to this screen. Here we can see we are getting the arguments. So how we can access this same argument in our view model? So this Dagger Hilt made this thing very easy. Like we can access that argument through this class saved state handle. So this Dagger Hilt will help us in getting that argument. So with the help of this state handle object, we can get that patient ID. So this is how we will fetch the patient details. First, this is giving error because we need to change this val to where. So let's change it, and with the help of this saved state handle object, we are getting that argument key which we pass with the name of this patient details are key. Let's press Ctrl B. So this is the same patient ID argument key. I made the constant. So here we are getting that argument key and we are using that let. this let function means if this is not null, then we'll use this block. And here we are seeing that if that patient ID is not equal to -1, because earlier when we go to the nav graph I provided the default value to -1. So if it is not -1, then we will call this get patient by ID function from our repository, and here we are providing that patient ID. And here again we are using this apply function. So whatever the patient detail we will get, then what we are doing here, we are updating the states of every text field with the patient details we fetched. So here we are updating all these values, and we are also updating this current patient id to with this patient id we get from the patient. Since there is no button for fetching this patient details, so what we will do, we will call this function in the init block. And also when we click on that save button, so we also need to provide the patient id, this current patient id. If we are saving the patient details first time, it means that this current patient id will be null. So this room database will create the id automatically. But if we are updating the patient, then we are getting that patient id from that fetched patient, and then we are just providing that patient id and updating that value on that patient id. So like this fetch function will work perfectly fine. So now we can run our app and see this. So here now we can see, if I click on this David item, and here we can see this is fetching that particular details. And let's change this name David to something else like Martha, and let's choose this female, and let's click. First let's also open that database inspector. Now let's click on this live update function, and here let's click on this save button. So here we can see these name column and this gender column will update. Let's click on this save. Here we can see these two things have been updated. So now we can see our app is working totally fine. We have provided all these functionalities. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.